food stuff, but it's not just a matter of just vegetarian cuisine. But food is prepared with very special spices and prepared also in a special consciousness. I was just talking to a group of people about a week and a half ago, and I was emphasizing certain things in relationship to conscious raising. I was saying that the little things that we do every day, if we're more careful about those, that'll naturally allow us to go deeper, make a deeper connection, with God, and to develop more of our higher faculties. So one example I was giving is how people have become so mechanized. We're in this industrial, so-called scientific arrangement, military-industrial scheme, especially in the West. And so there's a tendency with the computers and with the videos and even just the malls, everything has become so accessible for immediate sense gratification. Everything has become so easy for people to do things without thinking. And it's affected us so much that even our eating habits are like that. I think less in this part of the world, but especially on the East Coast now, more and more people do not even fix their own food or even go out to restaurants. They stay home, they just order, and the food comes. But even those who go out to restaurants or go in different environments where they go to eat something, they do not realize how much the consciousness of the people who prepare the food goes into the food. All right? Now, in the villages, people know this. All right? In very simple environments, people know that you grow your food a certain way, prepare it a certain way, that it has an effect. And they understand also that if you're having an argument with someone, you don't eat their food. And this is, this kind of Hollywood scene, you prepare something nice for someone that you love.
Yes.
A man's heart especially is, can be affected by the food. But that is a universal thing. In as much as that everything is being affected by something else. Everything ultimately breaks down in its most minute sense to consciousness. So, when people prepare their food in a spirit of selflessness, or they do things, prepare the food in a sense of real kind of caring, then that compassion, that goes into the food, and then it's like that gives the person certain equipment to move about and do what they have to do in society, or do what they have to do that day at the office or at home, etc. Now, with so many people just running to the fast food places, eating first food stuff that is not so healthy for them. So much cholesterol, so many things that do not digest properly because the body is a machine. There's certain things that it's more geared for than not. Certain things have become kind of acculturated to accepting because they're advertised. We get a taste for it maybe, but it's not necessarily some healthy for us. So now, when people are careful about the kind of food they eat and who prepares it and the environment, then it allows them to have much more of a consciousness that is less interfering. The consciousness is more sensitive for human and spiritual concerns. With so much intoxication, so much improper diet, can we make this machine more aggressive, make this machine more impersonal, make this machine much more geared toward materialism. And aggression, impersonalism, and materialism are actually suicidal, to a viable society. Because aggression means more and more the individual, the country, or the race, or even nation is more concerned about their sovereign concerns. And now that we're living pretty much in a global village, because what happens in any part in the world, it affects some other person in the world. First, we know about it from the high means of communication technology. So we cannot so longer hide about what's going on now in past Russia, in Somalia, in Sudan, in Ireland. It's all now in front of us. The economies are so interwoven, the political situations are so interwoven. So what happens in place then? Has that kind of carryover, that sort of fallout. So now, when we're constantly being fed this diet, the proper food, a diet of aggression and self-centeredness, a diet of egocentrism, then we start having that more in our immediate relationships. It starts affecting the way we interact with our children, where we interact with our wife or our husband, where we interact on the workplace. It affects the way that we see the world. We begin to feel much more lonely because we start wondering, who really cares about us? Or we start acting in such a way, thinking that let me get mine, regardless to who I may have to trespass on, what the consequences are. One of our ancient books called the Trisha Upanishad, there's a conception called Ishavasha Yam Sarvam, which means that literally God has arranged everything. Everything has like a certain quota, and when we are excessive, it creates an imbalance. That God has arranged everything in terms of nature, everything in such a way that things could go on in a very harmonious sense. But we have intervened so much with that natural flow. We're functioning in such a way of basically humankind conquering over nature rather than coexisting. We function more and more in a way to create sectarianism amongst religions, amongst races, amongst genders, even amongst what? Now we have a case where it's becoming harder and harder as men become confused about what is the role of a man, women confused about what the role of a woman, and a lot of interaction and confusion between the sexes. So a lot of that starts off with just some basic things from what we eat. Please. We're just speaking something briefly in relationship to consciousness and how not only what we think and the way we do things, but even how we prepare our food has an effect. And I was saying how in the very simple environments, like you can go to almost any village in India, in Africa, Latin America, South America, and you'll find that people know about these things. You can go to some of the ancient cultures and see how there's so much more consciousness about the importance of being your brothers and sisters' keeper, the importance of communal, of the extended family, and therefore you have less mental illness, you have less suicide. 4 days ago I was talking to a group of psychiatrists in Detroit at the Wayne State University. And I was mentioning some very universal conceptions about mind, body, and consciousness. Universal in the sense that it's knowledge that's more inner teachings, of various traditions. Not that it's so orthodox now. Because see, the present investigation of the human condition is beginning to understand now about miracles, all right, about the paranormal. And people who have involved their lives in so much mechanism, have become so much involved in like empiricism, reductionism, they just think in terms of what can I enjoy. Life is about eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. And they miss the mysterious. They miss the more sublime. They miss the ability to communicate with higher realms. They miss the ability to understand. It's like if you look at all religions and also ancient cultures. I say ancient because contemporary stuff is so much cosmetic. And it's causing so much inhumanities. And it's causing people to lose perception of what is valuable. There was just a short time back when people were thinking science was God. Now we see science has caused all the pollution, and so much the majority of the resources is being used to do what? To increase our ability to one country to kill another country. And in the process, we have more divorces, more people on drugs, more suicide, more children running away from their parents, and more people with a lack of happiness about their workforce, a lack of happiness about the academics. Just like amongst those of us in the black race. So more black academicians commit suicide than any other group. Why? Why, if knowledge itself can help to make the quality of life better, why should people who are becoming more knowledgeable find it more difficult to cope? Because at a certain level, knowledge begins also to reveal the shams, begins to reveal that things are not quite as we read about them, or not quite as we would like them to be. So at a certain level, knowledge can bring frustration. Some of the most intelligent people, whatever that means, because intelligence means a lot of things, but supposedly some of the most intelligent people who lived historically have been philosophers. And of that category, some of the most brilliant philosophers have been existential philosophers, who basically feel that life is a pain, who basically feel that everything ends in a certain kind of absurdity. Why? Because we go on and on in material knowledge, and it gets to a point that material knowledge becomes relative, transitory, and doesn't seem to necessarily always satisfy the inner man or the inner woman. I mean, any one given day at any university, 5,000 to 6,000 scientific journals are published. If you look worldwide, the amount of knowledge is increasing every 4 to 5 years. In terms of information that's accessible, known, I mean, things are changing so fast. It's anticipated that it'll start changing about every 2 years. So that means that we're constantly dealing in a world where things are changing so fast that it's becoming hard to understand what is essential, what is real. You're having less and less sense of permanency. As you know, now you write a book, right?